Gilg Jew, Gilg J as Gilg Nerach.
Seach and Train ish on Claare na Gael as William Saltige. This is Robert Gutting Cornwall, Robert a Carslach.
Have I heard tell of old Bobby Bob?
Here to bring you the programme called Claare na Gael, with part of it in the English language as the Sarnelia G. Sigilg, and another part of it in the Manx Gaelic, Chinianamera, the mother tongue of Ellen Vanning, the Isle of Man. As Bannacht and the Trish. William Gell's 1906 poem is exploring the north. Sweet, ivied temple of Lizare, he writes, around thee cluster beauties rare. Holds not the earth a scene more fair? On smiling plain, on wooded height, nature exerts her wondrous might to fill the soul with sheer delight. Ons skiel na Brothers Grimm na trí déine begus a chéal. Ta ben trach as in ínek, en rairish dunje trach as in ínege, de liezach ad chit de vei pusht, as take ordale. Ach eist en ven gol toyach de tran les erl jas nínek, shen de grey neen and dunje. Irish band Gotcha, with the voice of Anya McGeaney, sing a song about Newry Market, Murger and Newr. Tawis geestiach rish radio banning, station and ashun, viskuller skelia maach by Dulish, Alan Banning.
One, two, one, two, one, two, one.
Irish band Goitche going off to County Down to the market in Newry, Merga and Ure. Around the adjacent mountain spur, in Anglo-Saxon, we must slur. But due to this word demur, in the vernacular it's slew. Famed Sulby Glen bursts in on the view. So we've gone round an adjacent mountain spur, and it's slew in Manx, and then famed Sulby Glen bursts on the view. I'm not quite sure what his wordplay is about here, why he brings in slur. The sweet-ivied temple of Lisaire will be Kirk Christ Lisaire, built in 1835 to the design of John Welsh, to replace an earlier church which stood at the eastern end of what's now the graveyard. Well, it was the graveyard already, but the eastern end of that graveyard, there's no trace of it now, and the area was used fairly quickly for more burials. Although the church, as we see it, is still licensed for occasional services, it's taken on a new life as a concert venue and art centre. Going from the church towards the Ginger Hall area, in that area is Slew Manor. William Gell, for some reason, says, in Anglo-Saxon we must slur, then goes on to say, in the vernacular it's slew, which is, of course, what people say, slew or slew, but never slur, so quite why he threw that in is something of a mystery. Perhaps he means the skibbledy-barkter, tourists seeing it written down and getting it wrong. Tan vensio yn yw gŵn as peber as ti cor lias ninec cor mwy y gŵn peber sio, ged y vali sy iawra, as ti cor ser y gi dy gol mach sy chael as dy gedden basket dy hwn ty lŵn son, as gyn dy hit dy vali rish man y fel y decsh. Ti crel dy jig bes lias nin sy'n iachda. Chaneli cor veg gi ych myrd aran crai dy, ach ten yn un chit tai beg as 3 denia beg on. Ti cwr toil rw, as ti rhain mir dar yn orw, as ti gol mach dy sgeb ysniach dy fai doros na cwliar yn son. Ons tjyn o sien ti fedden sŵn to lŵn afi, as ti jynt mach. Ten y 3 denia beg a rech dy jiggy dy fe na sbwei dach lai. Dy jyn mir dy tuj y mach as y bileg dach fogl, as dy jynny pws a rei. Tred yn yn gol dy valiet yn lias hiwrec dolach oliwyd sio, as ti giri gol siach sy chael nis. Tan foirec cor cwt ffini cheji as rydyn mai dy as yr sŵlgi. Well, not Suan Toluan, but and a little previous with this Welsh song because it's called Mwyar Dion, Blackberries. It's written and performed by Gareth Bonello, who performs under the name The Gentle Good.
Wedi treulio'r gaean cysgu, daeth yr hael a'r dail naeth lledu, dros y ffens o'r ar drws nesaf. Blodau gwynion cyn gorffennaf. Bym yn disgwyl tlysau gwirfion ar yn troi'n gytseredion, blas y sydd a gwres y diwrnod, yn gynhesu bob yn hafod. Ac wedi methu llawer, wedi ond pigau wawr a floni, ond ar ogan gei a newydd. Pryder ni ddaw eto, dain a drain a mwy ar yno, melys rhwg a rybydd hefyd, capyd i yn gwylia'r machlud. A ydy'r anthem, pan gan ar mwyar dio ddiwedd haf. O carpet diem ydy'r anthem. Dere haid y wyna'n eirau
The Gentle Good, Gareth Bonello from Caerdydd, and his song Mwyar Dion, urging people to get out and pick blackberries when they're available. He even used the words Carpe Diem in there. Tyn lias hiwr chit the leag as tain a tri deni bega, ach siaf ei cwr toel ti gulstiach sy tai gyn cor Gael bydau. Chaneli arltach de rhain y bi ac orw, as ti gobl dy sgeb y sniach dy fai doros na cwlia. Tan a tri deni bega greu dy jiggy dy fein y sgren y dach le, dy gyn beif lim a mach as y bielig dach fogl, as dy bi best traieg. Henkel jas voor de wein een smooth courage nai in nina dunja. Gawi curra, huggy een aisle as runny skold a pert de snai on. Treve eurlu, runny kroche herish gielen en nien as huggy g tai. Ve nien golgus en jou in roget, de rische tol serjo as I de strulle snai on shen. Vi bailach den jas voorek, a chas vi ginu shen henkri sjas a choutjegge. Ten drie fagen de wel 4 eilen, as te braach de golmerish. Shen maar te, as te banish ox a gaastje legge. Wat vi vanre, as plain the sand me van macruggage den when rain mot jit de way. Now having reached Sulby Glen, here we must fain descant anew, yet 'twill be not so much amiss, the famous glen so like the Swiss, whose heights would fain, like lovers, kiss. Below, the Sulby stainless stream, well sheltered from the scorching beam, ripples and pools, the angler's dream. The silvery trout, swift darting by, watchful, will pause, alert and spry, and rise to snap the tempting fly. 'Twas here, when that dread storm bad brewed, the wayward Kate, remorse pursued, found refuge in the Thalton Rood. Well, that's a reference to Hall Caine's 1894 novel The Manxman and the character Kate Grugeen. Then, to the left, we must not fail to note another charming vale, the upland glen of Narrowdale. 'Twas here, with bright childhood parting, the sweet Mulvura and Milvartin had nothing recked of kindergarten. Well, Ellen Marlborough and Lizzie Milwarton are two young ladies in John Quine's 1897 novel, The Captain of the Parish. Although he plays the uilleann pipes, that Scottish musician Callum Stewart from Garmouth in Moray in north-east Scotland, near the mouth of the River Spey, and Callum will be playing at Nchruniach next month. Stasiwn ar asiwnta Radio Vanning, a sé Claare na Gael vis verklaas en Cartnish, Meryn Peen, Robert Cutting Carswell, Robert a Carslach.
Have you heard tell of old Bobby Bob?
Ma vis o golgus in een degger Radio Vanning, de Claare na Gael reclaas en Ries, vis schachten luk jigel kriele, jor is broe kraman eish Ries, shira enema Claare en Shen. Tira gedden mer podcast, yes? Ries through den degger Radio Vanning, na through den Reicher de podcast ed, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Audible, Spotify, Google Podcasts, TuneIn, na Alexa. In Sulby Glen then. Now speed we on our way again, upward, toward the mountain chain. Although to linger we are fain, where Thalta Will's bright waters leap, cascading down the wooded steep, up which the panting tourists creep, to stand upon the lofty poop and view the mountain chain and loop from Snaefell, monarch of the group. 'Twas here old Mannin's monarch stood, and all his ancient kingdom viewed, with several of a younger brood. And he has another footnote here which reads, the Manx kingdom was of older date than its neighbours. The neighbours visible from Snaefell, of course, and so the surrounding neighbours are of a younger brood. Observe we here these modern ways, how lucre seized the banks and braes, and aught is naught, unless it pays. How climbers once for breath would stop, electric coil their cash to cop unwinds its coil from base to top. This is the Snaefell Mountain Railway, built in a matter of months in 1895 with a 3-foot 6 gauge rather than 3 foot like the other trams, to allow for what's called the fell rail in the middle. Ren an lias voor clash en gen vai figurig al lias in Ninek, in Nina Dunyer en Ipusa, as henki merish en Ninek as a chastil, maar de berge inrigen de gorkier ter en rie as een wen rein. Luider au, treven rie en onmaag, as trainer au peger biekjoon fenish, ren a draag wen, Gael wen rein ljorish a gjoon, as ren a Ninek Gael I ljorish na boinen, as renna tarni maag as al jabi, as gjouwedi maag as an unjug, as stjaag on struwen war rai foi. Esh, ren a shaan ven koronien grene ex stjaag sal jabi, as renni kudachig as a smegelek. Tra henkeri back as we giri lortrish van egge beggen, die chen ven stop, ti carla de mai, sign ye guller frail de cunju. Grauw, eier bieg en rie de berg riddenach a gair. As henke rische morre a gain, as chas vi lotrische venegge as vi ko fregert day, creer en limme maag as a beel, ach beef. Guitarist Gilles Le Bigot is originally from Saint-Brieuc in the north coast of Brittany. We heard a singer from Saint-Brieuc last time. And the singer Solon Lefebvre is from Bruges, which is a village just southwest of Rennes. So they started well apart, but here they get together at Pardon Coloreg. Well, the more perspicacious will have noticed that that's more to do with a pardon rather than coloreg, but in St. John's, really. I'd intended to play that last week, but stupidly forgot, because the 9th of June is when Colm Cillian is celebrated, though with the calendar change and other factors, the Lair Colm Cillian is held in Arbury at the end of June these days. And we heard it there, sung by Kurjan Kujak in an arrangement by Annie Kizik. And yes, I was just checking to see now, we do go on to coloreg afterwards. Van rie olach rish meer de chit mach a spelen ben cheshege ag dagvogel. Maar so by yinders fagen beef chit mach ag dagvogel. Maar so esch braie g an ors on shen. As dort an chan ven de rawe kunte an een nudin moerek. As de jinnach steed shen gul herish. Ach ons en die renne gilje van Gaelse Veen se chamber early, fagen riddenach ons a chumme jay tonnig, snausoose jig, les na vogelen, Marie, krevis jinted me goosh, velu de chadle, no velu de goosh. Ach gedenk fregert, esch door te komme, krein gin vis ek me roldach, me so dregger skillion, Sal javi nen lai de droom gadlach. Rennie braich rish, as Maljanu beg, mes na brain, as dreggerei, teine kadle de kuun onze glein. Esch gauw a tunna gori kumme a wen rein, as haig as a feitje, as huggy a chierdei, as rennie smoodle a javi beg egge. The fell rail was designed by an engineer called John Barraclough Fell and was first used in the Peak District in Derbyshire. There were wheels under the vehicles mounted to engage on each side of the fell rail, so they were horizontal, and the fell rail and the wheels on it could be used for traction on a steep climb or for braking on descent. The Snaefell Mountain Railway only ever used it for braking. The fell rail came to be used in a line in the Alps between France and Italy. It was used in Brazil and it was used in New Zealand. In fact, there's a locomotive with fell gear in the Fell Engine Museum in New Zealand. But the only surviving system with the fell rail is the Snaefell Mountain Railway. The Snaefell line was surveyed by George Noble Fell, the son of John Barraclough Fell, and his survey came in 1888 with the idea for a steam engine to be fitted with the fell gear for both climbing and for braking, and for the steam engines on the route to pull the traffic. Well, the route was revived in 1895 for electric traction, with the fell rail for braking only. And construction began in January of 1895, and the line was opened to the public on the 20th of August 1895. As nish lichten gol gus pardon coloreg, Gilles Le Bigot, a guitar, and Solène Lefebvre singing. So we got there eventually, the Pardon Coloreg, a Breton song about a couple meeting at the Pardon, the religious procession in Coloreg. Coloreg is a commune in northwest Brittany, and that's far closer to the Saint-Brieuc from where Gilles Le Bigot, the guitarist and percussionist there, came, than it is to Rennes, where Solène Lefebvre, as well, she's actually from just outside Rennes, from Bruges, but it's a lot closer to Gilles Le Bigot's original place of birth than it is to Rennes. Having come up Sulby Glen and on to the summit of Snaefell, now back, excuse this backward trip, our way lies round the western hip. Just take a hint, please, not to slip into these currachs of Balaff. Reader, this is not meant for chaff, so if you please, please not to laugh. These fertile lands, I've learned of late, were once submerged in liquid state, now partly drained to cultivate. And if I really might presume, a glorious future here doth loom. Ye sons of those who did exhume from Stygian Gulf this favoured spot, arouse ye now, no more bog trot, but drain and cultivate the lot. Well, things don't always take the expected direction, do they? There's now a scheme for people to create wetlands to encourage bird life and protect the area from drying out, so that's in part reversing the trend of draining the area. In fact, because of the wetlands, with bog pools, marshy grassland, birch woodland, modified bog and willow scrub, the area now has international status as a place of importance. Ren a ben rein cúdacha a macec rish. As eish, ons cochaslas je tunnag, runnis now back shees a jig. Sanach shaw hanky deri. As an trasi doti rish scullion. Immi is inch den ri, de chrei a chliwega tri keerten skin sola dorish. Esh ren the skillion rai is dinche den ri. As henke lesh a chliwega. As ren e cree tri keerten skin a tunneg. As egg and tras geert, Shean ven hieshege van a shadow rosh, as ish bio as creoil as fallen marvi rai. Va bogem moer egen ri. Ach, ren nie vollige ven rein und schemer, der a henken doenach treffen peetje de bij erne baastje. As lugger baastje doort hij. Kreef is a peeg shen tolchen, ta tarn ver Elias liabi, as de kjouwe versjen stjags en ostje. As dregge een tjaan wen. Weg na sjene de wei courage ons molleg les treinigen jaren ongie, as de wei courage rolle schiese gronk, as stjags en ostje. A lovely tune played by Cornish musicians Neil Davey on mandolin and Jen Dyer on viola. As Neil was leading the way there on the mandolin, I wonder it's one of his own compositions, as he's a prolific tunesmith. Stasiwn yn asiwn tyneis o Radio Bannings tawas geis jachrys Claare Gael eg treton mish Robert Gytyn Corswell Robert y Corslach.
Did the ever hear tell of old Bobby Bob?
Eish, dŵrt yn rhi, tawas o'r lord dy gheir y hun. Ystord e mullig dy fe currit lesh, as van chan ven as yn ninek currit stiach ongi. As een fargel trained schies, as van bullag erne rolle schies a chronk, as stiachs en jawin. As marsog as a naskiel na trim rein snewy. Kuurt er rauwe nien gelitjerach, en ach jinnachie snew, as gedodde woire korori de jinnowe, kreer bieve jintek. Vijere, hanke woord wij corrie, as cholie a meenage, as ranny boele I de moor, de demi mach erurd. Se challenge shan van ben rin golsha. Noder ranny clashen na eamen ranny stappel, as lukt je golsjachs a tie, vrij jen boer en or vi boele nienek, de doddach de choljevech cha moeis a tred, clashen na eamen. Van ben goil nere, rosh lord mych jawn litjeres en jinek, maar so doert hij, ga not stappely by snew. Just further on stands Bishop's Court, where many of a good report gainst evil powers had held the fort of Mannin's church. What memories tender this scene will in the thoughts engender, and bid the soul due honour render. Recorded here on history's clock, how saintly Wilson oft would stock the corn to feed his famished flock. Well, in addition to helping provide directly for people of the island, Bishop Thomas Wilson was well known for encouraging them to provide for themselves by embracing modern farming methods, introducing some crops into the island and introducing new techniques at Bishop's Court Farm. It was almost an experimental farm, really. People could see how successful these new fangled ways were at Bishop's Court, and they introduced them for themselves. Thomas Wilson also knew the medicinal use of herbs, giving medicines free to people in need. He had a long incumbency, being consecrated Bishop of Sodon Man in January of 1697, and continuing in the office until 1755. Despite taking a fairly hard line on church discipline, insisting on things that the church elsewhere had allowed to go, Thomas Wilson was very highly thought of. Now, I'd only ever heard the Irish tune She Bheog She Vor as an instrumental, famously composed by the harper Turlough O'Carolan, about 1670 to 1738. But in fact, Turlough O'Carolan also wrote lyrics for it, and this is Mwiran Nicauliv to sing them.
So long.
The words and tune composed by Cherlach O'Carlan, although his inspiration for the melody was an Irish traditional song about a cuckoo. It was sung there by Muireann Nicowliv. Apropos of Thomas Wilson, writes William Gell, who has not heard that earnest joke? How worthy Snip, thus boldly, that's to say, a tailor, how worthy Snip thus boldly spoke. A single button on your cloak? Ah, sir, with such a meagre cover, the button folks won't live in clover. Why, John, then button it all over. 'Twas thus the earnest soul replied, so closely with his God allied, he knew no shred of human pride. Well, this is a story from the famine period, 1741, when Thomas Wilson did what he could to keep people employed to be able to afford food. Now, passing Michael's sacred fane, note how some earnest ones retain those ancient monuments again. Well, at that time, 1906, there was no protection for the ancient carved crosses in Kirkmichael. In fact, it wasn't until the following year, October of 1907, that the very attractive lich gate to the design of Armitage Rigby was opened, and the crosses were afforded some shelter. Since then, of course, the stones have gone inside the church. Having just referred to Bishop Thomas Wilson, he's buried in Kirkmichael graveyard, although William Gell doesn't mention that. Tamanin snew the kinjach door the boyrische ben rain, as bach tammy, as chanodum corgi lean the lure. Stregger ben rain, chanel weg na share down the shean the wheel snewy, as tammy the kinjach gennacht an manra tre tammy clash na cronenek. Lig thou goil den yin merum gus a chastjel. Tapaltje lien as neesh sneeuw en shen, huish as vis korboged en chriek. Van boer fi vanre lesje cheb, as ren de ven rein corleshen yin meri. Tre renker de gaastjel, ren de ven rein gien gi tri schemeren wat ledden de lien share, huish as wat kommel. Nish voor die sneeuwe lien shaw ma hand door die. As tred how able the yin dow I jint de sledden, be ma vakshinne heads on dunje pussy. Foddy de velu bach, ach genel mi burrich me gaan shen, ten grace ed jinusus tager de loer. Choust I, ben nien goil aal fi voer, non de bech able dek sneeuw lean. Now, starting during COVID lockdown, Welsh singer Ellen Flair used to go around sitting across the garden from people, talking to people under the moon, hence the name of the programme, Sgwrs dan y Claare, a chat under the moon. The theme music, it turns out, is the tune to this song by Gwilym Bowen Rhys, Fy Gwaithaf, which we heard not that long ago in Claare Gael, but the connection with Sgwrs dan y Claare I've only just found out about it. So, anyway, that's an excuse. Here it is again.
Ambell I gam, ambell I ffag sydd yn chwilio amdan. Ambell I gysgod yn llygad hen ffrind. Ambell un dwi'n di charu tan I bod I di mynd. Ambell beledrin sydd yn boeth ar fy ngwar, ambell un o'r hen wynebau yn edrych uwch ben y bar. Ambell I bnawn mewn maes pan sydd am ddianc i'n cranc. Ambell i foi yn y gornel ei hyd sydd yn yfadu iechyd bob bore dydd Llun. Tra bydd yr rhain mi feddai'n slaw i bob un o'r gwenoliau rhwng rwan a'r haf. Ambell i enw, ambell i gan, ambell i ffag sydd yn chwilio amdan.
Fy ngwaethaf, in spite of myself, written and sung by Gwilym Bowen Rhys, and in spite of having enjoyed Sgwrs Dan y Claare with Ellen Flair on Channel 4 for several years now, it's only just occurred to me that that's where the tune came from, so I managed to put two and two together after all this time. Eer der awi tannacht yn bio de bei chyd blaen de eis, as de bech in de sais nieuw dag le, vain veek, vain morg as vast de beg, a ginnachie chitlie. As trevi na lommerken, gawi toiach der Kenia. As vi na sai Kenia un shen rish 3 leen, gin cora lawek den over. Now, Kirk Michael was also the scene of a piece of comparatively recent history in William Gell's 1906 poem, an incident that had taken place during the visit to the island in August 1902 of King Edward VII and Queen Alexandra, and that anecdote from their visit will be the starting point of Claare and Gael next time. A sien yn oed fel ffeim nes a ffwrcht yn yn achir, yn oed fel sien a chir sio. Chris Pearson brings you 2 hours of the best chill-out music for your Sunday evening from 7 to 9, and then at 9 o'clock Judith Lay will be here to present Sundown. Claare and Gael comes to an end with music by the Scottish band who'll be opening in Hruniach next month, and they're called Rura, playing The Soft Mist All Over. Shene Esh, as we saw, now until the next time, this is Robert Cutting Carswell, Robert de Carslach.
Our Bobby Bob.
Wishing you a very good night. Eve I'm a Chriort, as Duts my Yerian share.